Low energy, unfocused, foggy? You might be dehydrated. Whether it's hot yoga, over 100-degree weather, or too much sun. Gator Light, with a specialized blend of 5 electrolytes, was scientifically designed to help move fluids into the body faster for rapid rehydration. Shop now at retailers nationwide. Gator Light hydrates faster than water. Is it in you? Symptoms noted are signs of mild to moderate dehydration. Consult a healthcare professional if symptoms persist.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
A coach's job during the course of a game is to identify problems and provide solutions to those problems. That's essential, and that's the essence of coaching.
Welcome to another episode of the Mushroom Society on the Coach and Coordinator Network. During the season, sometimes the best thing a coach can do is hear how someone who has been through it at the highest level approached the same problems he's dealing with right now. This segment comes from legendary offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia's presentation at the 2024 C.O.O.L Clinic. Dante spent nearly 5 decades coaching, but here he goes all the way back to his first year on the sideline and the realization that knowing football and being prepared to coach on game day are 2 different things. He shares his perspective on game day, the preparation that leads into it, and the unexpected problems every coach has to be ready to solve once the ball is kicked off. Here's Dante Scarnecchia on becoming a better coach on game day.
Propel Fitness Water. With Gatorade electrolytes, 0 sugar, and vitamins, Propel hydrates better than water to help you get the most out of your workout and get back to your best self. What propels you? Propel with Gatorade electrolytes.
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Shave ice by the beach. A trip to the state fair. And a throwback flick at the local drive-in. They're more than just items to check off the summer bucket list. They're also opportunities to earn 2% daily cash back when you use your Apple Card with Apple Pay. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
I want to tell you what it was like being a first-year coach on the sideline, since this subject matter is about being a better coach on game day. So there I am in my first year of coaching, not knowing anything but what I knew about the offense, which was substantial. Hell, I played it. And so I knew everything we were doing, but I just really, I wasn't prepared to do all the things that, a coach, a sideline coach, an offensive line coach ultimately should be prepared to do. I had a headset on so I could listen to what all the plays were that were being called, but I never charted any of those plays. I just tried to remember them all. And then when the players would come off after a series, I'd get them on the sideline. I did have a chalkboard. I did say chalkboard because that's all we had. And I would get with the players and talk about what they were seeing on the field and try to help them as best as I could. I can honestly tell you that I hope to hell I was a lot better coach in year 48 than I was in year 1 or year 2 or year 3 at Cal Western. I got better as we went, but truly I wasn't prepared to be the kind of coach that I wanted to be. And maybe, what we're going to talk about here will, resonate with a lot of young coaches that are just starting out and maybe give you some answers to some things you really are wondering about. As a first-year coach, I think it's really important to listen to the things I'm going to tell you, and hopefully they'll give you some insight on what this is all about. Let's first talk about game day. Okay, game day. You prepare all week, and you live for game day. It's what we live for. It's the final exam. to an intense week of analyzing your opponent and developing a game plan we hope will allow our players to play their best football and for all of us win the game. That's what game day is all about. Whether you coach youth football, high school, college, or pro football, the thrill and the challenge of doing your best on game day is exactly the same, in my opinion. The game day experience elicits a wide range of emotions from coaches. Some really believe it's the best day of the week, as we've alluded to already, and then it goes all the way the other way. Well, I coached with a guy named Ron Lynn, who is really a great football coach. He coached our secondary here with the Patriots, and that's a tough position to coach. And Ron Lynn's approach to his best feeling about game day was it was 3 hours of hell. And that's the way he looked at it, and that's the way, it was for him. But, you got balls flying over your defensive backs' heads and the receivers and stuff like that. I can see what he's talking about. But however, the highs and the lows, we have all experienced them, and it's a great, great feeling. I think the one thing that makes game day really unique is that on 53 yards away on that other sideline, our coaches and players who are also getting paid and are as motivated and driven to win the game as we are. And that's the challenge of game day. Them against us, okay? Their coaches working just as hard as we work, their players working just as hard as they work and as we work, and that's what makes the game so great is the competition in it and the fact that working against people that are trying to do exactly what we're trying to do. Also on game day, there is also the element of the unexpected or the unknown. Despite spending many hours analyzing our opponent and developing opinions on what they will or will not do, there are always things that come up in games that will require adjustments. Okay? And I'll give you some examples of that. Injuries, whether they're to our players or their players, it's going to impact the game. Okay? To our players that force us to eliminate personnel groups from our game plan, or the loss of some key players like a quarterback, a tackle, your best tackle, your best wide receiver, a tight end, maybe your center. Okay? Any of those things are going to have an impact on how things go during a game. And as a coach, you got to make adjustments to it. Okay? Injuries to their players, they're faced with the same thing, but that impacts us as well. If we spend an entire week trying to get our left tackle help on their best pass rusher, either by lining up the tight end there or chipping that defensive end with the back or, sliding our protection, whatever it is, trying to minimize the impact a very good player may have on the game. They go out for pregame, he tweaks his ankle, he's done. All of a sudden, that changes things the way we approach the game. That maybe now our tackle doesn't need that help. The same thing could be true if they have a lockdown corner who doesn't make it through the game, and all of a sudden he's been covering your receiver, through the whole course of the game, and now things open up to a great degree there. So the unknown is big, and it happens all the time. Personnel matchups. There may be a guy that all of a sudden's in their defensive line who you suddenly realize you didn't see what kind of player this was. You thought, okay, he's a good player, and all the rest of it, but he's a lot better player than the guy that's trying to block him. And now you got to adjust your blocking and maybe change your protections, slide to this guy because he's way too much for the guard that's got him to handle. So that can come up and impact the game. Field conditions, it's rain is forecast. You uncover the field for pregame. It rains like hell for 20 minutes, and you go out there to play the game, and you realize you can't throw the ball outside because your receiver's falling all over himself, slipping all over himself, falling on the ground. Nor can you run the ball outside because your back sticks his outside foot in the ground and tries to make a cut, and he's on the ground. So you have to adjust your game plan that way. So field conditions, personnel matchups, a couple other things that impact the game. We used to play in Denver all the time, 5,280 feet in the air, and altitude was a huge issue there. I remember one year we went there and played a game on a Sunday night, and the next week we were playing in Mexico City, so we just stayed, practiced down in Colorado Springs, which is a mile high also, and that helped us in preparation for our game in Mexico City, where we were playing at 7,300 feet against the Raiders. Good news for us, we had a week of altitude training. They didn't. And you could see it in their players. I'm not saying we were, totally used to the altitude, but we were a lot better equipped to handle it than they were. So, that's another impactful thing that you have to understand could happen. And then finally, weather. And there's 4 things that I would say about weather. Heat and humidity, especially you go down to Miami and play those guys early in the season, and it's really hard, especially because they got it figured out in their stadium, which has a kind of a semi canopy around the stadium, but they have it so that the canopy, it's equal on both sides. But what isn't equal is our side always faces the sun. It's amazing. The sun shines on our bench the whole game, and they're in the shade the whole game. It's the most amazing thing you've ever seen, and it's really, really tough. Along with heat and humidity, obviously, rain can impact the field like we've already talked about. Snow, we play in the stadium where we do get some snow every season, and, we may be better equipped to play in it than our opponents, but you got to learn how to play on a snowy field or icy field. And then the last thing, and I think the last inclement thing, weather inclement thing is wind. I think windy games are the toughest games to play in. And some of the worst games that we've ever had to experience weather-wise, and especially wind-wise, were in Buffalo, okay? And I would just tell you this, that, if the wind's blowing straight in your face, all right, like it would be for 2 quarters of a 4-quarter game, you can't throw the ball outside. You can't throw the ball outside the hash marks in pro ball. And the hash marks in pro ball are 12 yards apart in the middle of the field. Everything is vertical throws up the field. Anything to the outside is going to get knocked down by the wind or possibly intercepted, or, it's going to get knuckled out there where anybody can catch it. It's just a tough, tough thing because you rely more on your run game and you make yourself one-dimensional, and there's a real issue with playing into the wind, and we'll talk about that as we go. Road games in pro football usually are in loud places, and especially if they're in close or in close stadiums. They can be as tough as it gets, okay? So there's 5, 6, 7 times a season you're gonna play, you're gonna have to use silent count in somebody else's stadium. For those of you that don't use it, you rely on some type of mechanism within your offensive line, either, the quarterback tapping the center's hip, the center dropping his head, picking it up, and snapping the ball in a certain rhythm that the linemen are used to. And why are they used to it? Because if you were coach for Bill Belichick during training camp every 3rd day, we had to practice in silent count. Even though there was no noise, we were in silent count, working the different snap variations and rhythms that we had to use. So any or all those things affect you on game day, and I think it's important that you understand that. A coach's job during the course of a game is to identify problems and provide solutions to those problems. That's essential, and that's the essence of coaching. Identify any changes that are different than what we have practiced against, and especially how those changes could affect other runs or pass protection systems that we have yet to run, okay? That's what it's all about on the sideline during games for a position coach, and the better you get at that, the better a sideline coach you become. Is it experience? Yeah, hell yeah, it's experience. Is it developing a way to do things on the sideline that you think are beneficial to the players? Absolutely. And a lot of it comes with experience and doing a lot of thinking about it. not only can you impart information to the players on the sideline, but if you have time, you can get information back from the players. Over the course of time, you learn to listen to players that come off the field and say, "Hey, coach," when their tackle says to their defensive end text, that means they're going to run a TE stunt. Or, "Hey, coach," when they say exit, that means they're going to run an end tackle stunt. Or when they say tango, tango right, tango left, that means it's going to be some form of TT stunt. Pirate, that's a universal term for, slant the three technique into the A gap, slant the defensive end into the B gap off of an over or under front. Monty Kiffin, that was his way of calling that line stunt. And it just, you could hear it being called. So you can get things from the players that are beneficial to all right, if you listen to what they have to say or ask them, what are they saying out there? There's huge, huge benefits that come with that. If time permits, and it doesn't always permit, okay? If the defense is still out there and you get the coordinator on the headset, what are you thinking about in the next series? All right, you may be able to give your players an idea of what he's going to call when they go back out there. I want to tell you some traits of good sideline coaches, okay? And I think it's important to understand that, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. A good sideline coach and traits. A good sideline coach watches all the offensive plays and very little of his team's defensive plays. Look at, you didn't pay a ticket to get the best seat in the house. And so your job's not to watch the entire game. Your job is to coach the players you coach. Watch them play, and when they come off the field, coach the hell out. If you're watching your own defense out there, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to spend all your time with your players and get the information like we've talked about, impart the information to them, and make them better for the next series when they go out there. A good sideline coach has a way of gathering information from the play caller through the headset, all right, and keep a chart of each play. We've already talked about the play chart. A good sideline coach watches the point of attack in the run game and scans the pocket in pass protection. Let me be more specific on what I just said. In the run game, I know where the ball's going, so my eyes quickly look at that. All right, when the ball is snapped, I look there. If I don't see any penetration, I look back to the backside and see what's going on there. And then I'm going to trust everything, all the rest of the information, all right, from the pictures that I see and, what I can get out of the players. If it comes up 2nd or 4, 2nd and 5, because everybody's covered up, you're probably doing pretty good things. If it comes up 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, you're probably not. But there's no penetration. We're just not doing a good job of moving it. So, a good sideline coach you're able to watch the point of attack and then maybe get back to the backside in the run game. In pass protection, you watch the pocket. Obviously, if you got one of your players has got a really good play on them, you look to that position first. If nothing breaks loose there, then you just watch the rest of them. We're doing all right. We got bodies in front of bodies. Come on, Tommy, hurry up and throw that damn ball. And really, that's the mentality that goes on. But you can see both, what's happening on the line of scrimmage from the sideline, and you can get a lot of information by doing that.
That's just a small piece of Coach Scarnecchia's full presentation from the C.O.O.L Clinic. In the complete presentation, Coach Scarnecchia goes deeper into becoming a better game day coach, how he charted the game, coached his offensive line between series, identified defensive and situational adjustments, communicated with other position coaches, prepared for halftime, studied pass rushers and personnel groupings, built practice periods around potential problems, and prepared his players throughout the week. That's what makes the Mushroom Society such a valuable resource during the season. You don't have to wait until the offseason to keep developing as a coach. When you need a drill, a coaching point, a different way to teach a technique, an answer to a problem showing up in your room, or simply the perspective of someone who's already been through it, The Mushroom Society gives you access to lessons from some of the best offensive line coaches to ever coach the game. Use it throughout the season, find what you need, and take it back to your room. Join the Mushroom Society at mushroom-society.com or click the link in the show notes. Follow all we're doing at the Coaching Coordinator Network on coachandcoordinator.com, and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski and at The Cool Clinic.